The Illinois State Rifle Association says a package that would enhance lost and stolen reporting of firearms and safe storage of firearms is, quote, a hot mess. Welcome in. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Going to be on the road later on today, but got a short program for you, so buckle in and let's get right on into it. Of course, go to thecentersquare.com for the latest headlines. Get this podcast anywhere you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus, and you can get that. But also like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network to get the latest out of Illinois, but also all across the country. So make that happen with America's Talking Network. So we talked about this briefly last week, and I wanted to bring back up the news release that the Gun Violence Prevention PAC put out. They say lawmakers and gun violence prevention advocates call for passing safe at-home package in fall veto session. Now, fall veto session begins, I believe, November 12th, so it's after the November 5th general election. State lawmakers are going to come back to Springfield. We'll be on the ground covering all that happens, if much happens. It's been rumored that they could come in for a few days and then cancel the rest, or they can come in and handle a whole bunch of things. Will gun control laws be among those? So again, let's go back to the news release here. Lawmakers should pass this package. You've got several bills here. House Bill 5891 from Representative Hirschauer. You also have a companion Senate bill, but as well, you've got another House Bill 5888 from State Representative Kevin Olicle that would impact a variety of things. So we're looking at, the issue of safe storage and lost and stolen, but the provisions, what they do is, for instance, the safe storage, it says that if anybody is under the age of 18 inside a premises, then you have to have that firearm locked up. It goes further than that. The lost and stolen provision, it sets up an internet database of sorts that, gun sellers can tap into to see if a firearm is lost or stolen through Illinois State Police, but it also reduces the time people must report lost or stolen from 72 hours to 48 hours. I connected with Ed Sullivan from the Illinois State Rifle Association and got some of his thoughts on what exactly this measure is all about.
So we have been reviewing the various bills that have been introduced over the last year dealing with either safe storage of firearms or lost and stolen firearms. They're really broken out into two separate issues, not necessarily combined into one bill. I will tell you that the safe storage bill is a hot mess. Every variation that I've read, and I think one just came out again yesterday or the day before by Representative Hirschauer. It's written by people that don't understand the law, and they have, great ideas on what they think is safe storage and how they want to tackle the problem or perceived problem. But they don't really understand the law at all. And it's not about kids. They'll say, well, we're trying to protect kids. They're really trying to go after gun owners on multiple fronts. And so the first area of the safe storage bill that is problematic is they will say, well, you have to have your guns in a safe storage, locker, safe, something. If there's someone in your home that is going to be a prohibited person. And so that sounds spooky. That sounds like, whoa, prohibited person. We got to watch out for that person. Anybody in the state of Illinois that does not have a FOID card is a prohibited person. And so there's over 10 million people that are prohibited persons. There's no criminal damage. They're not criminals. They're not, mentally challenged. They just don't have a FOID card. And so that's the law. That's the present law. And so I don't think they understand that. That's a problem as we see it. And so, a person that is single or doesn't have kids wouldn't necessarily worry about kids in the home. Yet if they invite a guest over, that is a prohibited person. And so they are required to have their firearms in a safe storage. They also start talking about how you should know or not know whether someone's a prohibited person or younger, whichever it may be. But they have a section that basically says, if someone broke into my home and steals a gun and kills somebody, I can be uh, criminally charged. I can be charged with a fine of $10,000. I'm sorry, not criminally charged, but charged with a fine of $10,000. But then that person's family could take me to court. And so someone that breaks into my home, let's say once again, I'm single. I don't have any thought of a kid coming into my home, but someone breaks into my home and takes my firearm, uses it in a crime and kills somebody. That victim's family could sue me even though someone else did the shooting and they broke into my home to steal my guns. That's a big, big problem. And I don't think they understand that. And it might just be that they didn't write it correctly. I don't know. We haven't really spoken to them about this, and I'm sure at some point we will, maybe, whether they have the veto session or not. Lost and stolen. So it makes the assumption that everyone knew that the guns were stolen. Lost or stolen. And our question is, how would we know that? I mean, I could tell you right now, in my home, I have all my guns in a safe. My wife has the combination to one of them because we keep important papers in there. But what happens if she left it open and I didn't know that, and I didn't go into that gun safe or whatever? And one of my kids' friends came over and took the firearm, and then did something with it. Well, the police would trace that back to me and say, hey, you didn't know that this was gone. And I would have to say, no, I didn't. Yet, if it's after 48 hours, I'm going to be criminally charged with that because, I didn't report it lost and stolen. And so that's the problem, the basic problem with the lost and stolen bill on this. How do you prove it's lost or stolen? And that's always been the problem with this type of legislation over time. And I guess the last thing I would say about all this is, there have been, I can think of two separate legislators that have introduced language to make it cheaper to buy a safe or do some type of tax credit to buy safes, and they've never moved forward. And so here are the Democrats that want you to buy safes to have safe storage, yet they do nothing to make it easier for people to buy them. And the thing about the language in the safe storage bill is they define premises. So premises is any place that you're going to take your gun, whether that's your car, your motorcycle, your business, or your home, and you will have to have a safe for every single one of those places. And so, safes on a lower end are $50 to $75, and so you potentially could have to buy three of them. And so you go into communities that are that don't have the wealth of other communities. You're going to force these individuals to buy multiple safes that they can't afford, and thereby denying them the Second Amendment rights. And I think that's a really big problem.
So again, Ed Sullivan's with the Illinois State Rifle Association reacting to the legislation that the Gun Violence Prevention PAC is proposing. Pull this back up for you just to read some of these quotes. You've got State Senator Ram Villavalum saying approximately 380,000 firearms are stolen in the United States each year, and many of which are trafficked or used in violent crimes. Working with stakeholders to raise public awareness and streamline reporting of lost and stolen firearms is common sense gun violence prevention measures that will save lives. You've also got Representative Olakul with his bill on lost and stolen, saying stolen firearms are a major driver of violent crime, with lost guns being 3 times more likely to be used in crimes. Safe home legislation will improve reporting requirements, ensuring that we can quickly track these weapons. State Senator Laura Ellman saying Illinois is committed to leading the charge in gun violence prevention, and the next crucial step is ensuring safe firearm storage. Proper gun storage is a life-saving measure. Legislation that mandates safe storage can help avert such tragedies and address the everyday horrors of unintentional shootings by children and teen gun suicide. Representative Hirschauer says we must act to prevent access to deadly weapons by minors and people who should not have access to guns. We will build on our record of nation-leading gun violence prevention legislation, and ensuring safe storage of firearms is a common-sense measure long overdue. So again, those are some of the statements from those who are pushing for this to be brought up during fall veto session. The Illinois State Rifle Association is going to be watching that, as will we at the Center Square, to report out to you the latest. But to the safe storage aspect here, I asked Sullivan what good's a gun that's locked up in a self-defense situation. And here's his thoughts on that and Supreme Court precedents.
Sure. Well, and that kind of leans up against Heller. So there's two laws that are going to come into play over this that potentially could be problematic for the anti-gun groups that really don't think through these things or don't care, one of the two. In Heller, they say that you cannot, in the home, make a gun inoperable. Well, what's inoperable? Is inoperable meaning you have to take it apart? Is inoperable meaning you can't get to it right away? And so that's something that they'll have to start thinking about. But more importantly, in Bruin, they talked about unreasonable fees to exclude people from their Second Amendment rights. I would say having to buy a safe or 3 safes at $75 to $100 each makes it prohibitive for certain individuals that lower economic standing from exercising their Second Amendment rights, or getting a follow of the government that would then in essence take away your FOID card and go from there. And then add in a third. I forgot about this actually. Add in a third ruling. The Rahimi ruling said that you cannot lose your Second Amendment rights without a hearing. And so, is the law where an administration or administrative rule can take away your Second Amendment rights now legal or valid? I don't think it is. And so there's lots of things that these anti-gunners have not really thought through. And that's why all these things are a hot mess. And, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it harder for law-abiding citizens to exercise their Second Amendment rights. And that's really what they've always been trying to do, and piecemeal it as they go.
And we still have also the other potential legislation that could come up about enhancing red flag laws. That doesn't seem to be part of this news release that the Gun Violence Prevention PAC put out, but it has been something that at least Hirschauer has been fighting for at the State House to try to get the enhancement of red flag laws. But as you heard Ed Sullivan from the State Rifle Association talk about the Rahimi case, I asked him to expand a bit on that and what it means for possibly enhancing red flag laws.
Well, Rahimi went kind of how we thought how it would go. We always assumed Rahimi, with the Rahimi case, that the Supreme Court would say, yes, you could temporarily disarm an individual. And from the ISRA standpoint, if you've done something stupid enough to beat up or threaten one of your family members, you might need to have a little timeout from your Second Amendment rights. But here's what people have to understand. Under Rahimi, they said that you have to have a hearing. You have to have due process. And that's all we've always asked for in all these things, from the red flag statutes all the way up and down to clear and present danger statutes. We have said you have to have due process. You can't have, someone claim one thing, take away someone's rights, and then it turn out to be false. And so we applaud the Supreme Court for doing the right thing. Now the question is, will the anti-gun groups and anti-gun legislators actually follow Rahimi? Now they've celebrated Rahimi. They've said, this was a great ruling. We can now disarm domestic abusers. Like I said, ISRA agrees with them, but will they follow Rahimi to its fullest and then actually give due process? And so that's what we'll be looking at. We have started the discussions back during session. Since summer and fall has arrived, we have not been involved with any of these discussions, so we'll have to see how they want to play it out.
Again, fall veto session coming up sooner than you think, because the November 5th election is just around the corner, and then November 12th will be here before we know it. And be sure to get the newsletter at thecentersquare.com to stay up to date with the election and fall veto session and anything that happens in this space of the Second Amendment, as we'll see if there's any hearings and any movement on these bills. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like I said, short program today. I'm going to be hitting the road, going to be covering a conversation about Illinois' pension issues. So we'll unpack some of that. Also, you've got a major transportation hearing that's going to be happening in Springfield, the final of a Senate Transportation Committee set of hearings, so we'll be covering that. You've got the Madigan trial kicking back in today with continued jury selection, so there's going to be tons for us to talk about. I'll be on the road, but we'll bring you Illinois in Focus tomorrow here with America's Talking Network and the Center Square. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you so much for being with us each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily.
So,